You are walking through life with a target painted on your back. You do not see it, but the predators around you do. It pulses every time you smile when you don't want to. It glows every time you apologize for taking up space. It screams when you seek consensus instead of command. You have been conditioned to believe that likability is a currency. You have been taught that if you are agreeable, harmless, and pliable, the world will embrace you. This is a lie. The world does not embrace the harmless, it metabolizes them. To understand why you are stuck, why you feel drained, overlooked, and disrespected, we must first dissect your biology. For 200,000 years, your ancestors lived in tribes of less than 150 people. In that environment, exile was a death sentence. To be disliked by the tribe meant you were cast out into the cold, left to starve or be eaten. So, your brain evolved a safety mechanism called the anxiety of approval. It is a chemical alarm system that triggers cortisol, the stress hormone, whenever you sense social friction. It forces you to conform, to placate, and to submit. But you are no longer in the Paleolithic era. You are in a modern, hyper-competitive hierarchy. The survival mechanism that once kept you alive is now the very thing that keeps you beneath the boot of lesser men. When you prioritize being liked, you are signaling to every Machiavellian operator in the room that your boundaries are soft. You are broadcasting that your primary drive is safety, not sovereignty. In the realm of power dynamics, the need for approval is blood in the water. It attracts the narcissist, the exploiter, and the tyrant. They do not see your kindness as a virtue. They see it as an open door to your resources, your energy, and your time. Stop trying to be the good guy. The good guy is a myth created to keep the workforce compliant. We are here to construct something far more durable. We are here to build a creature that commands respect, even if it comes at the cost of comfort. We are going to perform an autopsy on your social conditioning. And to do that, we must turn to the only man who had the stomach to write the manual on power as it actually is, not as we wish it to be. To understand the weapon we are about to forge, you must understand the forge itself. The year is 1513. Florence, Italy. This is not the romanticized renaissance of art and poetry. It is a slaughterhouse of ambition. City-states are tearing each other apart. The Pope leads armies. Mercenaries change sides based on who pays the highest gold coin. Betrayal is not an occasional misfortune, it is the atmospheric pressure of the time. In this chaos sits Niccolo Machiavelli. He is a diplomat, a strategist, and a man who has looked into the abyss of human nature and watched it blink. He has been exiled, he has been tortured, he has been stripped of his status, and in his isolation, he writes a small pamphlet. It is not intended for the public. It is a classified briefing for a prince. Before Machiavelli, the advice given to rulers, known as the mirrors for princes, was practically delusional. Philosophers told kings to be virtuous, honest, Christian, and merciful. They sold the fantasy that a good king would always be loved, and a loved king would always be safe. Machiavelli looked at history, and he looked at the corpses of good men, and he wrote the forbidden truth. Virtue without power is suicide. He argued that the world is not governed by God's grace or moral karma. It is governed by force and fraud. He realized that the man who acts according to how things ought to be, rather than how they are, will ruin himself rather than preserve himself. This is where you are failing. You are operating on a moral operating system in an amoral world. You believe that if you work hard, you will be promoted. You believe that if you are loyal, you will be cherished. You believe that if you are liked, you will be safe. Machiavelli calls this a hallucination. In chapter 15 of The Prince, he writes that a man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything must necessarily come to grief among so many who are not good. Read that again. If you insist on being good in a room full of sharks, you are not a saint, you are a meal. The philosophy we are discussing today is not about becoming evil. It is about becoming real. It is about shedding the naive skin of the child who wants a hug and growing the armored scales of the sovereign who demands respect. We are going deep into chapter 17, the most controversial chapter in the history of political philosophy. This is the chapter where Machiavelli asks the ultimate question of leverage. Is it better to be loved than feared, or feared than loved? His answer is the red pill you have been waiting to swallow. We are now descending into the engine room of Machiavellian psychology. This is where we strip away the comforting lies of civilization and look at the raw mechanics of human interaction. Most people read The Prince and they see a guide for tyrants. They are wrong. It is a guide for realists. And nowhere is this realism more brutal or more necessary than in chapter 17. Here, Machiavelli poses the question that has haunted leaders, CEOs, and fathers for 5 centuries. Is it better to be loved than feared, or feared than loved? The modern world screams the answer at you before you can even think. HR departments, school teachers, and modern therapists all sing the same chorus. They say it is better to be loved. They say love is the strongest force. They say connection is everything. They tell you that if you are loved, people will be loyal. They tell you that if you are loved, people will go the extra mile for you. They paint a picture of a utopia where your niceness is the currency that buys you safety. Machiavelli looks at this assertion and laughs. Not out of cruelty, but out of pity for your naivety. He answers the question with a cold, binary efficiency. One might wish to be both, but because it is difficult to unite them in one person, it is much safer to be feared than loved. Safer. Underline that word in your mind. He does not say it is nicer. He does not say it is more spiritual. He says it is safer. Why? To understand this, we must perform an autopsy on the emotion of love. Machiavelli dissects the reliability of human affection with the precision of a surgeon cutting out a tumor. He writes that of men, one can generally say this: they are ungrateful, fickle, simulators and deceivers, avoiders of danger, and greedy for gain. This is the variable that the nice guy ignores. You build your strategy on the assumption that people are inherently good, loyal, and consistent. You assume that if you treat them well, they will reciprocate. But Machiavelli argues that men are mercenaries of self-interest. When you rely on being loved, you are relying on an emotion that exists entirely inside the other person's head. You are building your house on their emotional foundation. And what is the nature of human emotion? It is fluid. It is volatile. It changes with the weather, with the economy, with their mood. Machiavelli continues, saying that love is held by a link of obligation which, since men are wretched creatures, is broken at every opportunity for their own advantage. The link of obligation. This is the fatal flaw of the nice guy strategy. When you are liked, people feel a mild sense of obligation to you. But obligation is a heavy coat. Humans hate wearing it. The moment their self-interest aligns against you, the moment betraying you gets them a promotion, or ignoring you saves them energy, or disrespecting you raises their social status, that paper chain of love snaps. They will offer you their blood, their property, and their lives when the danger is far away. But when the danger comes close, when the pressure applies, they revolt. Now, let us contrast this with fear. Machiavelli writes that fear is preserved by a dread of punishment which never fails. Which never fails. This is the psychological anchor. Love is a gift given by the subject. Fear is a response compelled by the sovereign. When we speak of fear here, do not mistake it for the hysteria of a horror movie. We are not talking about being a jump scare. We are talking about respect, derived from consequence. It is the feeling you get when you stand near the edge of a cliff. The cliff does not hate you. The cliff is not screaming at you. But you respect the cliff because you know the consequences of disrespecting gravity. Gravity is safe to be around because it is consistent. It is feared, yes, but it is relied upon. The nice guy has no gravity. He has no consequences. He is a pillow, soft, comforting, and easily reshaped by anyone who sits on him. The Machiavellian strategist understands the physics of power. First, consider the locus of control. If I rely on your love, you hold the keys to my security. If I rely on your fear or your respect, I hold the keys. Machiavelli dictates that a wise prince must rely on what is in his own power, not on what is in the power of others. To rely on love is to surrender agency. Second, consider the shelf life of gratitude. Gratitude is the most perishable of all human emotions. It rots faster than milk. You can do 1,000 favors for a man, building love, but the moment you say no once, the love evaporates. Fear, however, has a long shelf life. The memory of a boundary firmly enforced lasts for years. Third, consider the clarity of interaction. When you are feared, communication is clear. People listen because they cannot afford to miss the signal. When you are merely liked, people tune you out because they know you will repeat yourself, or worse, you will tolerate being ignored. This is the dark realization you must internalize. Love is optional. A person can choose to stop loving you at any moment. Fear is mandatory. A person cannot choose to stop fearing the consequences of their actions, provided those consequences are real. In your life, you are likely suffering because you are trying to negotiate desire by asking people to like you, rather than establishing physics by showing people that actions have reactions. You are begging for the gift of loyalty, rather than constructing the architecture where disloyalty is too expensive to afford. The nice guy thinks, if I do everything for them, they will never leave me. The Machiavellian thinks, I will make the cost of leaving me so high, or the cost of betraying me so severe, that they would not dare. One is a prayer, the other is a strategy. But here is the nuance, the part the amateurs miss. Machiavelli is not advocating for constant aggression. He is not telling you to walk around scowling and threatening people. That is the behavior of an insecure child, not a prince. The fear he speaks of is cold fear. It is the fear of the calm man who knows exactly what he will do if crossed. It is the fear of the dormant volcano. When you integrate this shadow, when you accept that it is safer to be respected than adored, you stop performing for the crowd. You stop laughing at jokes that aren't funny. You stop apologizing for existing. You become solid, and in a world of liquid, shifting loyalties, solidity is the most attractive quality a man can possess. Paradoxically, once you stop trying to be loved and start demanding to be respected, people often start to love you. Why? Because they crave structure. They crave a leader who is not blown about by the wind of opinion, but never forget the order of operations. Respect first, love second. If you invert this, if you seek love at the expense of respect, you will end up with neither. You will be despised. And being despised is the only fate worse than death. We have established that fear is a safer investment than love. Now, we must confront the moral objection that is currently screaming in the back of your mind. You are thinking, but I want to be a good person. I don't want to be cruel. I want to be merciful. This is the trap of the ego. You believe that your refusal to punish, your refusal to conflict, and your refusal to assert dominance makes you good. You believe that your passivity is a form of higher morality. Machiavelli is here to strip you of that delusion. He presents us with the paradox of mercy. His argument is radical. Excessive mercy is actually a form of cruelty, and calculated cruelty is the highest form of mercy. To understand this, we look at the historical case study that Machiavelli witnessed with his own eyes. The tale of two cities, the Romagna under Cesare Borgia and Pistoia under the Florentine Republic. Cesare Borgia was considered a monster by his enemies. He was ruthless. When he conquered the Romagna, a region plagued by robbery, feuds, and lawlessness, he did not send social workers. He sent a cruel governor, Ramiro de Orco, who established order through the axe and the block. Borgia used cruelty to snap the region into alignment. He executed the criminals. He crushed the robber barons. He terrified the population. And the result? Peace. For the first time in generations, the people of the Romagna could walk the streets without being mugged. Commerce returned. Unity was restored. Borgia's cruelty to a few criminals resulted in mercy for the entire population. He accepted the burden of being feared to secure the safety of the collective. Now, look at the Florentines, the nice guys. The city of Pistoia was tearing itself apart with factional fighting, riots, burning buildings, families killing families in the streets. The Florentine rulers who controlled Pistoia had the power to stop it. But to stop it, they would have had to send in troops. They would have had to execute the ringleaders. They would have had to be mean. They wanted to be loved. They wanted to be seen as enlightened and merciful. So, they did nothing. They tried to mediate. They hesitated. And because of their mercy, the riots escalated, hundreds died, the city was ruined. Machiavelli points the finger of judgment not at the cruel Borgia, but at the merciful Florentines. He writes that Cesare Borgia was considered cruel, notwithstanding, his cruelty reconciled the Romagna, unified it, and restored it to peace and loyalty. The Florentine people, to avoid the reputation of cruelty, allowed Pistoia to be destroyed. This is the diagnosis of your nice guy syndrome. It is not virtue, it is negligence. When you refuse to enforce a boundary because you are afraid of the conflict, you are not being kind, you are allowing chaos to fester. When a manager refuses to fire an incompetent employee because he feels bad, he is not being merciful. He is being cruel to the 5 other employees who have to work double shifts to cover for the incompetence. He is destroying the morale of the team to save his own feelings. When a parent refuses to discipline a child because they want to be the child's friend, they are not being loving. They are raising a monster who will be crushed by reality the moment they leave the house. That is the ultimate cruelty. When you refuse to confront a disrespectful partner because you want to keep the peace, you are not being a peacemaker. You are a warmonger against your own self-respect. You are training them to abuse you. Machiavelli teaches us the calculus of consequences. If you punish one person, if you make an example of one boundary crosser, you offend one person. But you signal to the other 1,000 that you are not to be trifled with. You create a perimeter of safety. If you let the transgression slide, you may please that one person temporarily, But you signal to the other 1,000 that the laws are fake, that the walls are made of paper. You invite the flood. This is why the nice guy is a prey animal. He believes that by sheathing his claws, he is making the world safer. In reality, he is creating a vacuum. And in nature, a vacuum is always filled by a predator. You must reframe your understanding of cruelty. Machiavelli is not talking about sadism. He is not talking about enjoying the pain of others. He is talking about the surgical application of consequence. Is the surgeon cruel for cutting you open? No. He causes immediate, sharp pain to prevent a long, agonizing death from infection. The nice guy is the doctor who refuses to operate because he doesn't want to hurt you. He gives you a lollipop while the gangrene spreads. He is the villain of the story. You have a duty to be formidable. You have a duty to be capable of cruelty, which is simply the capacity to say no with absolute finality, to fire the toxic employee, to cut off the draining friend, to walk away from the bad deal. If you cannot do these things, you are not good. You are merely harmless. And as we have established, the world does not reward the harmless, it eats them. So, the next time you hesitate to enforce a consequence because you are afraid of being disliked, remember Pistoia. Remember that your hesitation is not saving anyone, it is burning the city down. Be Borgia. Accept the burden of the bad reputation to secure the result of peace. But there is a razor's edge here. Machiavelli says it is safer to be feared than loved, but he adds a critical condition. A condition that, if ignored, leads to ruin. He writes that he must only endeavor to escape being hated. There is a vast ocean between being feared and being hated. One makes you a king, the other makes you a corpse. We must now learn how to walk that line. Forget the high-voltage fence. That is a defensive metaphor. A fence waits to be touched. A predator does not wait. We need to discuss psychological predation. When Machiavelli speaks of fear, he is not speaking of the clumsy intimidation of a schoolyard bully. He is speaking of the Gorgon effect. A form of presence so heavy, so solid, and so impenetrable that it freezes the erratic emotions of others. To construct this architecture, we must manipulate the most primal circuits of the human brain. We are going to bypass the frontal cortex and speak directly to the amygdala. You are currently leaking power. You leak it through your nervous laughter. You leak it through your rapid blinking. You leak it through your desperate need to fill silence. These are all biological signals of a prey animal scanning for safety. The master of fear does not scan for safety. He scans for leverage. Here are the 4 pillars of the architecture of fear. First is the void gaze, or the uncanny valley. The first step to becoming formidable is to kill your micro-expressions. Humans are social animals. We are programmed to mirror each other. If I smile, you smile. If I raise my eyebrows, you raise yours. This is called rapport building. It is the tool of the salesman and the subordinate. The predator breaks the mirror. When you are in a high-stakes interaction, you must enter the void. This means suppressing your reactive facial muscles. When they tell a joke, do not smile. When they shout, do not flinch. When they compliment you, do not blush. You must become a blank screen. Why? Because of a psychological phenomenon known as the uncanny valley. When a human being interacts with something that looks human but does not react like a human, like a corpse or a robot, it triggers a deep ancestral dread. When you refuse to mirror their emotions, their brain panics. Their subconscious screams, "Why isn't he reacting? Is he angry? Is he analyzing me? Does he know something I don't?" By doing absolutely nothing, you force them to project their own insecurities onto you. They will start to talk faster, explain more, and giggle nervously to break the tension. They are trying to find a reflection in your mirror, but you are giving them only the black abyss. You are not being rude. You are being opaque. And in the game of power, the one who cannot be read is the one who cannot be controlled. Second is the panopticon effect, or asymmetric knowledge. Fear is born from the unknown. If a man knows exactly what you are thinking, he can manipulate you. If he knows your fears, your desires, and your triggers, he owns you. The nice guy creates symmetric transparency. He tells everyone everything. I'm so worried about this project, or I really need this raise. He hands over the blueprints of his mind. The Machiavellian operates on asymmetric information. You must know everything about them, while they know nothing about you. Ask questions, answer none. When they ask what you think, deflect. Say you are still assessing the data and ask for their rationale. Hoard the silence. Let them fill the air. People reveal their weaknesses when they are rambling. They will tell you who they hate, who they cheat, and what they fear, simply because they are uncomfortable with the quiet. Cultivate the black box persona. Your personal life, your financial status, your next move, these should be rumors, not public record. When you become a black box, people begin to mythologize you. They assume you are more powerful than you are. They assume you are more connected than you are. Fear is not what they see, it is what they imagine is lurking in the dark. Third is the implied threat, or the velvet dagger. Amateurs use overt threats. They scream, "If you do that, I'll yell at you." This is weak. It shows you are emotionally disturbed. The sovereign uses the implied threat. This is the art of phrasing a warning as a concern. It is the ability to signal that you have the capacity for extreme violence, whether that be career destruction, legal action, or social exile, but that you are benevolently choosing to keep your sword in its sheath. It is the difference between a dog that barks and a wolf that stares at your jugular. How do you execute this? The drop. When the conversation gets heated, lower your voice. Do not raise it. Speak slower. Enunciate every consonant. Then, the phrasing. Use outcome framing. Instead of saying, "You better not cross me," say, "I have looked at the potential outcomes of this path, and none of them end well for you." I would suggest a recalibration. The or else is always silent. Never state the specific punishment. Let their imagination invent a punishment far worse than anything you could threaten. You are polite. You are calm, but underneath the velvet glove, they can feel the iron hand closing around their wrist. Fourth is the willingness to burn the ship, or the death drive. This is the nuclear core of fear. The other three techniques are just tricks if you do not possess this internal reality. You cannot be feared if you are attached. If you need the job to pay your mortgage, your boss owns you. If you need the relationship to feel validated, your partner owns you. If you need the deal to save your reputation, the client owns you. Predators can smell neediness. It smells like sweat and cortisol. It triggers their aggression. They know they can abuse you, and you will stay because you are afraid of the loss. To become truly terrifying, you must cultivate the willingness to burn the ship. This is a Stoic exercise in negative visualization taken to the extreme. Before you walk into a negotiation, before you enter a confrontation, you must accept the worst-case scenario. You must mentally fire yourself. You must mentally end the relationship. You must mentally lose the money. Accept the death of the outcome. When you walk into a room having already accepted the loss, you are unleverageable. You are a ghost. You cannot be threatened because you have already killed the hostage. When you look a man in the eye and he realizes that you are genuinely willing to walk away and let the whole deal burn to ash rather than accept disrespect, he will be terrified. Because a man who is not afraid to lose is a man who cannot be beaten. He will scramble to save the deal. He will offer concessions. He will submit. You become a creature of cold gravity. Your face is a void, your mind is a black box, your words are scalpels, your soul is ready to burn. This is not about being mean. It is about being real in a world of fakes. The nice guy is terrified of reality. He hides behind smiles. The Machiavellian strategist is reality. And reality is cold, hard, and indifferent to your feelings. Now that we have built the monster, we must install the safety switch. Because if you run this engine too hot, if you let this coldness turn into malice, you will cross the line from a king to a tyrant. And as Machiavelli warns, the tyrant always dies alone. We have taught you how to generate fear. We have handed you the voltage. But now we must discuss the insulation. If you apply the architecture of fear without this next principle, you will not build a kingdom. You will dig your own grave. Machiavelli is often remembered as a promoter of evil. This is false. He was a promoter of efficiency, and he explicitly warns that there is one emotion in the populace that is fatal to the prince. It is not fear. It is not sadness. It is hatred. He writes that it is best to be feared than loved, but he must only endeavor to escape being hated. This distinction is the difference between a long reign and a violent assassination. Fear is a rational emotion. It calculates risk. It says, if I attack the prince, I will suffer, therefore I will stay in line. Fear keeps your enemies paralyzed. Hatred is an irrational emotion. It ignores risk. It says, I do not care if I die, as long as I take him with me. Hatred mobilizes your enemies. It turns cowards into martyrs. So, how do you walk the razor's edge? How do you remain cold enough to be feared, but not malicious enough to be hated? Machiavelli gives us the precise formula. He identifies the two specific triggers that turn a man from a submissive subject into a radicalized assassin. Trigger 1 is the sanctity of assets. Machiavelli writes, but above all, he must abstain from the property of others, because men forget the death of their father sooner than the loss of their patrimony. This is a cynical, yet undeniable truth of human nature. You can execute a man's family, and he might grieve. But if you steal his inheritance, he will plot your demise for 50 years. In the modern world, patrimony translates to resources and credit. You generate hatred when you become a parasite, the manager who steals the credit for his team's work, the partner who drains the bank account, the friend who constantly borrows and never repays. This is not dominance. This is thievery. To be a sovereign, you must be self-sustaining. You must never be seen as someone who needs to take from others. You can be harsh. You can fire people. You can break up with people. That is structural fear. But the moment you cheat them, the moment you withhold a promised bonus, or steal an idea, or refuse to pay a debt, you cross the line. You are no longer a dangerous lion. You are a petty rat, and rats are exterminated. Trigger 2 is the violation of ego. The second cause of hatred, Machiavelli notes, is taking the women of his subjects. In the 16th century, this was literal. In the 21st century, this translates to public humiliation and emasculation. Nothing generates hatred faster than shame. If you correct a subordinate in private, you generate fear and respect. You have shown them the boundary. If you scream at a subordinate in front of the entire office, you generate hatred. You have not just corrected them, you have tried to destroy their social standing. The nice guy often stumbles into this because he bottles up his anger until he explodes in a tantrum. The tantrum creates enemies. The Machiavellian is surgical. Never insult intelligence. You can tell someone they are wrong without calling them an idiot. Never mock the weak. Punching down is not a sign of power, it is a sign of insecurity. The lion ignores the mouse, he does not mock it. Remember the Golden Bridge concept. Sun Tzu taught that you must always leave a retreating enemy a golden bridge to escape. If you back a man into a corner and strip him of all hope and dignity, he has no choice but to fight to the death. When you defeat an opponent, allow them to save face. Let them leave with a shred of their ego intact. They will fear you for your victory, but they will not hate you because you did not force them to become a monster to survive. Finally, Machiavelli argues that when the prince must punish, there must be a justification of the sword. He writes that when he is obliged to take the life of anyone, let him do so when there is a proper justification and manifest reason. Random cruelty creates terror, and terror creates hatred. Think of the Emperor Caligula, who killed people on a whim. He was assassinated by his own guards. Calculated cruelty creates order. Think of Marcus Aurelius, who punished strictly according to the law. Your boundaries and punishments must be predictable. If you fire an employee because they missed a KPI that you clearly established 3 times, the office will fear you and respect your standards. They know the rule. If you fire an employee because you were in a bad mood, the office will hate you. They cannot predict your violence, so they must conspire to remove you. To be a king, you must be a force of nature. Gravity is feared, but not hated, because it is consistent. Lightning is feared, but not hated, because it is impartial. A virus is hated because it is parasitic and chaotic. Be gravity, not the virus. Do not touch their money. Do not touch their dignity. Enforce your laws with cold, dispassionate weight. If you can do this, you will achieve the rarest of all states in the human hierarchy, revered authority. But how does this theoretical framework survive contact with the real world? How does this look on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m.? We have spent enough time in the 16th century. Now, we drag Machiavelli into the fluorescent lights of the modern world. You might be thinking, I am not a prince. I do not run a city-state. I am an accountant, a student, a mid-level manager. You are wrong. Every room you enter is a city-state. Every interaction is a negotiation of sovereignty. The laws of power do not change just because the battlefield has shifted from the mud to the boardroom. The physics remain the same. Let us look at how the fear versus love dynamic plays out in the 3 arenas that define your life: your career, your circle, and your bed. In the corporate jungle, we see the agreeableness paradox. In the corporate world, there is a statistical reality that HR will never show you. Psychometric studies have repeatedly shown a negative correlation between the personality trait of agreeableness and financial success. The nice guy employee says yes to everything. Can you stay late? Yes. Can you take on this extra project? Yes. Can we pay you less than market rate? Yes. He thinks he is building loyalty. He thinks the company will reward his sacrifice. He is hallucinating. To the corporation, the nice guy is a utility. He is reliable, cheap, and easily manipulated. Why would they promote him? If they promote him, they lose their beast of burden. They keep him exactly where he is because he is useful where he is. Now, observe the respected asset, the Machiavellian. He is polite, but his boundaries are iron. He says no to busy work that does not align with his KPIs. He negotiates his salary with the implied threat that he has other options. He does not ask for permission to lead. He takes ownership and waits for someone to stop him. Management may not like him in the warm, fuzzy sense. They may find him intimidating, but they fear losing him. They respect his competence, and when the time comes for promotion, they choose him, not because he is nice, but because he is a killer. Corporations are not families, they are sports teams. They do not pay you for your personality. They pay you for your points. If you are liked but not feared, you are the mascot, not the captain. In the social dynamic, we see the high-status filter. High-value individuals, men of power, wealth, and status, have a built-in immune system against sycophants. They are constantly surrounded by people who want something from them, people who laugh at their jokes, agree with their opinions, and seek their validation. When you act like a nice guy, when you are overly agreeable, you trigger this immune system. You signal that you are a fan, not a peer. A fan seeks value. A peer offers reality. If you want to enter a circle of high-status men, you must demonstrate spine. If a powerful man says something you disagree with, politely disagree. Say, "I see it differently," and explain why. If the group decides to do something you don't want to do, decline. In that moment of friction, there is a split second of tension. This is the vetting process. They are testing you. Are you another leech looking for approval? Or are you a sovereign individual with your own gravity? If you hold your frame, if you are comfortable being the dissenting voice, you pass the test. You earn respect. They may argue with you. They may roast you. But you are now inside the circle in a way the sycophant never will be. You have proven that you cannot be bought with cheap approval. In the romantic market, we see the paradox of desire. This is the hardest pill to swallow. We are told by Hollywood that love is about constant availability, pouring your heart out, and doing anything to please the other person. Biologically, this is anti-seductive. Desire is fueled by uncertainty and scarcity. You do not desire the air you breathe because it is always there. You only desire it when it is taken away. You do not desire a person who is completely, totally, 100% yours, who requires no maintenance, and who has no other options. When the nice guy makes himself 100% available, when he responds instantly, agrees with every movie choice, and apologizes for having needs, he kills the tension. He becomes boring. He thinks he is being loving. She feels like she is being smothered. The Machiavellian lover understands the balance of terror. This is not about being abusive. It is about maintaining your autonomy. You have a mission outside of the relationship. That mission comes first. You have standards. If they are crossed, you withdraw attention. You maintain the subtle, non-verbal reality that you could leave. Machiavelli said love is held by a link of obligation broken at every opportunity. If your partner knows that you cannot leave, that you are too dependent, too nice, or too weak to walk away, they will naturally, subconsciously, lose respect for you. And where respect dies, desire soon follows. To be desired, you must be a little bit dangerous. Not physically dangerous, but existentially dangerous. The danger that you are a sovereign entity who chooses to stay, but is not forced to stay. That subtle fear, the fear of losing you, is what keeps the flame of desire burning bright. In the office, be the asset they cannot afford to lose. In the circle, be the voice they cannot intimidate. In the bedroom, be the prize they must work to keep. Stop trying to get paid in likes. The exchange rate is zero. Get paid in respect. Now, you have the theory from Machiavelli, the mechanism of the architecture of fear, and the application in the mirror. All that remains is the execution. I am going to give you 3 specific protocols to start this transformation today. Theory without execution is mental masturbation. You have the philosophy of the prince, now you need the habits of the sovereign. You cannot flip a switch and become Machiavelli overnight. You must train your nervous system to tolerate the anxiety of power. I am giving you the protocol of sovereignty. 3 specific exercises. Do not try them, execute them. Protocol 1 is the territorial reset, or environmental dominance. When you feel social pressure, your biological instinct is to compress. You hunch your shoulders, you keep your elbows tucked in, and you keep your possessions in a tight little pile in front of you. You are subconsciously trying to take up as little space as possible so you don't offend the predator. The drill is simple. When the pressure hits, when the tough question is asked or the negotiation stalls, expand. Do not answer immediately. Instead, physically alter the environment. Reach out and move something on the table. Move your coffee cup 6 inches to the right. Slide your notebook to the center. Put your arm on the back of the chair next to you, or widen your elbows on the table. Never lean forward to answer a challenge. This is pleading posture. Lean back. This is assessing posture. By moving objects in the room, you are sending a signal to the primal brain of everyone present. You are saying, I am comfortable enough to curate this environment. I am the host, you are the guest. The nice guy is afraid to touch anything. The sovereign arranges the world to suit him. This subtle physical act breaks the other person's frame before you even speak a word. Protocol 2 is the calculated refusal or the soft no. You apologize for your boundaries. You say, I'm so sorry, I really wish I could help, but I'm just swamped right now, maybe next week? You are asking for forgiveness for having a life. The drill is to eliminate the word sorry from your refusals. You will practice the soft no. It is polite, it is brief, and it is final. It offers no handle for them to grab onto. If someone asks you to help them move and you can't, do not give excuses. Simply say, I can't make that work. I have prior commitments. Good luck with the move though. If someone asks to lower the price on a deal, simply say, no. The price reflects the value. We are comfortable standing there. By removing the because, the excuse, you remove the negotiation. If you give a reason, they can argue with the reason. If you just give the refusal, they have to accept the reality. Protocol 3 is the walkaway visualization, or the death drive. You enter every interaction needing to win or needing to keep the person. This attachment makes you weak. The drill is to perform the pre-mortem before every high-stakes interaction. Sit in your car or at your desk, close your eyes, visualize the worst-case scenario, visualize them firing you. Visualize her breaking up with you, visualize the client laughing in your face. Now, visualize yourself surviving it, see yourself walking out of the building, see yourself driving home, see yourself eating dinner that night. Realize that you are still alive, you are still whole. By accepting the death of the interaction before it begins, you kill your fear. You walk into the room with the casual confidence of a man who has nothing to lose. There is nothing more terrifying to a manipulator than a man who has already packed his bags. We have dissected the anatomy of power. We have walked the dark corridors of Machiavelli's mind. You now understand the choice before you. You can continue to be the nice guy. You can continue to seek the warm, suffocating embrace of approval. You can continue to apologize for your existence, hoping that if you make yourself small enough, the predators will ignore you. But know this, the world does not reward the harmless. The world is a machine that grinds the weak into fuel for the strong. Your goodness is not a shield, it is a target. The path of the sovereign is not about becoming a villain, it is about becoming capable. Capable of violence, but choosing peace. Capable of cruelty, but choosing order. Capable of silence in a world of noise. It is safer to be feared than loved, because fear is respect. And respect is the only currency that matters in the marketplace of men. Stop asking for permission. Stop apologizing for your power. Build your walls, sharpen your mind, and let them break themselves against your resolve. The kingdom is not out there. It is in here. Wake up.